Designing and implementing Microsoft DevOps solutions. AZ-400 exam updated dumps are the latest version in the whole market, which can guarantee you pass. 1. You add the virtual machines as managed nodes in Azure Automation State Configuration. You need to configure the computer in Group 7. What should you do? A. Run the register Azure Automation DSC node Azure PowerShell CMD-let. B. Modify the configuration mode property of the Local Configuration Manager LCM. C. Install PowerShell Core. D. Modify the refresh mode property of the Local Configuration Manager LCM. 2. In Azure DevOps, you create Project 3. You need to meet the requirements of the project. What should you do first? A. From Azure DevOps, create a service endpoint. B. From SonarQube, obtain an authentication token. C. From Azure DevOps, modify the build definition. D. From SonarQube, create a project. 3. You need to implement Project 4. What should you do first? A. Add the from instruction in the Dockerfile file. B. Add a copy and publish build artifacts task to the build pipeline. C. Add a Docker task to the build pipeline. D. Add the maintainer instruction in the Dockerfile file. 4. You need to meet the technical requirements for controlling access to Azure DevOps. What should you use? A. Azure Multi-Factor Authentication MFA. B. On-premises firewall rules. C. Conditional access policies in Azure AD. D. Azure Role-Based Access Control Azure RBAC. 5. You need to configure Azure pipelines to control apt2 builds. Which authentication method should you use? A. Windows NTLM. B. Certificate. C. SAML. D. Personal Access Token PAT. 6. You need to meet the technical requirements for monitoring App1. What should you use? A. Splunk. B. Azure Application Insights. C. Azure Advisor. D. App Service Logs. 7. You manage build pipelines and deployment pipelines by using Azure DevOps. Your company has a team of 500 developers. New members are added continual. The team you need to automate management of users and licenses whenever possible. Which task must you perform manually? A. Modifying group memberships. B. Procuring licenses. C. Adding users. D. Assigning entitlements. 8. During a code review, you discover many quality issues. Many modules contain unused variables and empty catch modes. You need to recommend a solution to improve the quality of the code. What should you recommend? A. In a Gradle build task, select Run Checkstyle. B. In an Xcode build task, select Use XC Pretty from Advanced. C. In a Grunt build task, select Enabled from Control Options. D. In a Maven build task, select Run PMD. 9. Your company uses Azure DevOps for the build pipelines and deployment pipelines of Java-based projects. You need to recommend a strategy for managing technical debt. Which 2 actions should you include in the recommendation? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Integrate Azure DevOps and SonarQube. B. Integrates Azure DevOps and Azure DevTest Labs. C. Configure post-deployment approvals in the deployment pipeline. D. Configure pre-deployment approvals in the deployment pipeline. 10. Your company has an on-premises Bitbucket server that is used for Git-based source control. The server is protected by a firewall that blocks inbound Internet traffic. You plan to use Azure DevOps to manage the build and release processes. Which two components are required to integrate Azure DevOps and Bitbucket? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 port. A. An external Git service connection. B. A Microsoft hosted agent. C. Service hooks. D. A self-hosted agent. E. A deployment M group.